We learn a lot from our parents, probably more than we learn from anyone else. Some of those lessons are explicit. They tell us things we need to know. Other times, those lessons are implicit. We see how they behave in their unguarded moments, and we emulate them. If we're lucky, there is a close resemblance between what they say and what they do. But of course, no parent is perfect, so we end up with some decidedly mixed messages. But still, the most important lessons in life we learn from our parents. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas. Like your parents, mine were good people, honest to a fault. They had high expectations for my siblings and me, which we did not always live up to. As an adult and as the father of adult children, I can see in hindsight that there were some lessons I learned and passed on to my children which were probably not terribly healthy. But I believe that for the most part, I passed along some pretty important lessons. Over the next few days, I want to reflect on just a few of those lessons with you. One of the most important lessons I learned was the importance of taking responsibility for my actions, good or bad. As a small child, like most children, I would always try to blame things that I had done on other people, including made-up friends. Something broke, Johnny did it. Almost every child does this in some form or fashion, I suppose. I suppose it's part of our instinct for self-preservation that causes us to try to avoid punishment at all costs. There's a familiar story from Genesis that speaks to this very tendency. It is from Genesis 3, and it's part of the story of Adam and Eve. They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord among the trees in the garden. But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" He said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself." He said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" The man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this that you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent tricked me, and I ate." The fundamental sin here, of course, is disobedience. The man and woman were specifically instructed not to eat the fruit of a particular tree. But close behind disobedience is the sin of denying responsibility, choosing instead to place blame on others. The woman blames the serpent for tricking her. The man's blame passing is even more insidious. Not only does he blame the woman for giving him the fruit, he blames God for giving him the woman. The woman whom you gave me, she gave me the fruit from the tree, and I ate. Thus is seeking to lay blame on others for our misdeeds as old as humankind and as recent as any day's news. But to say that is how we behave naturally doesn't make it any less devious. Taking responsibility for one's misdeeds, owning one's faults, is hard. It goes against the grain of human nature. But taking responsibility for ourselves is a sign of spiritual maturity. Pay attention, and you'll hear this sort of buck passing happen all the time, blaming others for things. Perhaps we become so used to hearing people pass the buck that we just don't pay much attention to it anymore. But it happens, and it happens all too frequently. So if there's anything we can learn from my parents, it's this. fess up. It's never as bad as being caught and lying about it. And our lies always have a way of catching up with us in the end. And now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.